Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel, and today we're actually going to be starting something a bit new. I don't know if YouTubers have really done this before, but on the Bat Merch Reviews channel, Bat Fan Games, whatever you want to call it, we do a lot of shit on here. We do a lot of reviewing. As a lot of you may know, I review YouTuber shit, but there's another part of YouTube that I haven't really talked about too much. Now, I may have been sponsored previously by a few brands, you know, Thumbsticks and fucking Beef Jerky and The Ugly People Show, which, you know, I won't chuck the commercial in there, but, you know, first link in the description. Today we're going to be looking at our first ever YouTube Made Me Buy It. Now, what exactly is the series? Well, it's very self-explanatory. The big advertisements that you see all these big YouTubers putting out, I'm going to try them, and without being sponsored, just tell you how I feel about them, legitimately. This is a limited series. I'm only going to do like 4 of these episodes. Unless these blow up, then maybe I'll do more. But for right now, let's just stick with these 4. And the first one of our 4 is not exactly the biggest heavy hitter you might think, but one that is near and dear to my heart. Today we are looking at Shudder, the quote-unquote Netflix of horror. Now, I think the major YouTubers you guys could see promoting this is a lot of both film review and horror channels. Big ones I can think of are Elvis Alien, Dead Meat, probably CinemaSyn, I don't know, and Wendigoon is a very big one, I'd say. I was sort of skeptical because even though I'm a person who genuinely enjoys film, I talk about movies sometimes, and I genuinely enjoy watching and discussing film, but horror was never the main category for me. I say more mystery or thriller films, but I was intrigued because not only do they have apparently great classics, they have their own original stuff, they have originals and exclusives, and apparently it's ad-free. So for $8 a month, I decided to purchase it and use it for a month or 2 if I remember correctly. Now, getting into the series, of course, it's going to be very loosey-goosey depending on what we review. You know, could be a physical product, could be a digital product. Very much throwing into the wind how we're going to do this. But for this one, I sort of want to look on how the website functions, what do they have to offer, and if what they have to offer is pretty good. Now, in retrospect, I watched these in, I believe, October. I started my subscription September something, and then it ended like October 31st. And I watched a few film. I had 3 film areas that I wanted to do. I wanted to do a film that they had on their streaming service that was not like an exclusive or an original to see, like, you know, how good it is, and also lets me just talk about older movies. Then I wanted to do an original on there, you know, something that the company made and put out there, and then an exclusive, something you can only find on the platform to see, you know, what sort of stuff are they independently making and what sort of stuff are they putting their name on. And I thought that would be pretty cool. By the way, if you're noticing the setup, hopefully I have the setup right. You know, I got like my little voice mic and stuff. The person who drew this, Dark Doll Yumi, she's fucking amazing. She made my Twitch icons and stuff, and she's generally, I would consider, one of my best friends on the internet. So I'm gonna link her down below. Please go give her some love on Twitter and stuff. I'm not on Twitter anymore, so yeah, there's that. But yeah, I'm gonna have the poster or just like a clip of the movie playing on the little microphone. Why did I say microphone? It's on the goddamn screen. Gonna have that playing on the screen that we got going, and let's just get into the 3 movies I watched. The first movie I have to say that I watched was the original Reanimator movie. And first off, like, without going any spoilers and stuff, generally I enjoyed this film, and since it was an 80s film, I did have a bit of a problem with the sound. I thought there was going to be a problem with the sound and picture. Relatively, it came out very good. Like, I had no problems at all with it. The film itself I genuinely enjoy it. I am a person who loves practical use, not only in horror, but, you know, other mediums, but horror is such a major hard hitter with that. And generally, I enjoyed it. There were some great, you can tell they hired like theater actors and stuff, and I love seeing theater actors in films because, you know, they are bringing genuine energy, genuine acting, I would say. And though the plot at some points I feel like it's not the most like fluid, it's not as most like, you know, straight to the point, all that stuff. Sometimes it lingers. It was generally very much a joyride of not only entertainment, horror, but also just watching this marvel of artistic design. I mean, of course, this was based off the H.P. Lovecraft Reanimator, which I unfortunately have not read, but maybe I'll read it one day. I don't know. And overall, this is genuinely just a very enjoyable watch. If you have not been spoiled on it, there's nothing much you can really spoil, I would say. This is not very much a movie that you're just like, oh, I'm so invested in the plot. While it has a good plot, mostly people are there for the special effects and just the atmosphere of something. Like, everyone knows the ending to Titanic at this point. Everyone knows the ending to Shawshank Redemption. They are there for the atmosphere and just the experience of watching it and following these characters. And it's another one of those movies where I genuinely, even if I've been spoiled on it 30, 40 times, I will rewatch. I rewatched it a few times while I had my subscription going. So, for our first part of the review, I gotta say, this is very high up there. I'm not gonna lie. Overall, the film, I give it an 8.5 out of 10. The original, the exclusive, that I decided to watch was a film by the name of Mayhem. Now, just full disclosure, I initially watched this on the Dead Meat channel. He did a video where he discussed Mayhem, and I believe that episode was even sponsored by Shudder, maybe? I don't know entirely if it was. You know, I might be wrong on that. But it stars Stephen Yeun and Samara, I hope I'm saying that last name right, Samara Weaving and Stephen Brand, it looks like. And really, to be honest, it was very enjoyable. I enjoy films that, and this is not meant to sound like in a, oh my gosh, society sort of way, that sort of just like deconstructs the humanity behind a lot of overlooked assets. And this one discusses like the humanities behind, I believe Stephen Yeun's character is like a real estate mogul, or he works for some big some massive conglomeration where he like works legal cases and stuff. And Samara Weaving's character is there, and she gets fucked over by the company. And this movie sort of works as an infection movie, where there's essentially, the reason why it's called Mayhem is they get infected by this parasite, pathogen, whatever you want to call it. And, you know, all their inhibitions are just gone. And it's a horror comedy, I believe, or thriller comedy. I don't know what the fuck you want to call it. And overall, it was a horror comedy that did not need to try hard with it being comedic. It solely worked because Stephen Yeun and Samara Weaving, I believe, are extremely good actors. Stephen Yeun was, of course, in The Walking Dead. I know more, to be honest, I know more for Invincible, because he plays the main character. He voices the main character. And Samara Weaving, unfortunately, I've not seen a ton of her films, but I know her for, like, Babysitter, Right or Not. I believe those are, like, the main one. Babysitter and Babysitter Killer Queen, those were ones I watched. I believe I watched them before the kill count, so I was sort of not spoiled on them. And I genuinely enjoyed her in those movies. Not to mention, I can't remember the rest of them, but they have, like, a very good ensemble cast, you know, minor characters that get their time to shine. And a lot of really good action segments where it's not only like there's a bunch of fights, there's a bunch of murders and all that stuff, and it never felt fake. Because you can tell sometimes with like action movies and stuff that it's just like, oh, this person gets shot once. Oh, I mean, does that mean they're actually gonna die? I mean, maybe, but like it's like a leg shot and they never come back up. But in this one, the violence is not only egregious, but it's done for the sake of comedy. Like, I think a part I most definitely remember is Stephen Yeun's character is fighting some big butch guy who constantly pulls out pepper spray. That's like an ongoing joke. Maybe they do a Rule 3 joke, I don't know entirely, where it's just like he pulls out and he fucking maces him. So instead of getting maced in the eye, Stephen Yeun's character tilts his head, I believe, or tilts the guy's hand to where it sprays into his mouth, to which then he, after the thing's fully unloaded, just spits it into the guy's eyes, stabs him in the neck, and then there's a long drawn-out scene where I believe it's a one-shot. He's just crawling on his hands and knees trying to get to a water station, water cooler, whatever you want to call it, and just fucking stabs it. And I genuinely thought that was extremely funny. It was great physical comedy. And the ending to the movie, I believe most horror comedies, you know, sometimes the endings sort of make it fall off. That's sort of the problem with a lot of comedies now that I think about it. But usually with horror comedies, the third act, they completely fall off. But this one was just a joyride from start to beginning. It had a very great ending. It didn't feel like phony or unrealistic with the ending. It felt genuine. And I keep on saying genuinely enjoyed it. It was an extremely fun ride, and I highly recommend, even though I've technically spoiled some bits, you know, I do recommend you go and see that. It is very good. This one I'm gonna give a fucking 9 out of 10 when it comes to horror movies. I'm basically sort of like off of like horror movie ratings, which I know horror movies are art films. But there's also like some people who want to step away from sort of horror movies are known for like slashers, torture porn, and their cheese and stuff. And I'm just sort of ranking them off of like from my horror movies. These have become like some of my favorite horror movies. So yeah. So looking for the original I wanted to find, it was very hard to unearth this one for some reason. But the original I decided to watch, and by the way, I want to avoid ones that a lot of people recommended. You know, like YouTubers, I believe some of the most highly recommended one is just like the VHS series, the Drive-In with Joe Bob Briggs or whatever. I believe that's his name. Hopefully I'm not horribly fucking up that name. And a lot of those films, like I think like the Nicolas Cage movies I heard from Elvis the Alien, that was a big one that a lot of people were like advertising, but I wanted to avoid those just for this video, because I felt like if I went out and explored something that I genuinely loved and I got to talk about, I feel like that would be more of a positive, I want to say, or just like I'm being more realistic, if that makes a lick of sense. So I decided to avoid all of those. But one I didn't was Deadstream, and that's because weird. Okay, here's the thing. I love found footage, but whenever they try to fuse like found footage with modern social media, sometimes it really doesn't work. Like the first Unfriended movie, I don't know if you would count. I feel like you would count that. I did not enjoy, because it was horrible people that you were supposed to. I don't know if you were supposed to root for them to survive, or if you were supposed to root for them to die. But usually when I want to root for someone to die, I want the movie to be funny. You know, it's like fun, you know, it's like hilariously, like, you can tell that the writers are just like, yeah, this person's a shitty person. We're just going to make him do shitty things that are at least, like, somewhat funny for watch value. And that's the best way I can describe Deadstream, because it is what I want every single one of these weird movies where it's like, oh, a killer app, or, oh, killer robots and stuff, or, oh, paranormal happenings being caught on camera. That's why I want like all those movies to be, because first off, it is a comedy. I'll get that out of the way, and second off, it's fucking amazing. Without giving away too much of the plot, it follows a washed up YouTuber and live streamer who wants to win back his followers and all that stuff. I'm sort of just reading the fucking description, but I have seen the movie, I promise. He wants to win back his followers, so he decides to go do that thing where people go for, you know, haunted houses and shit, and they like, oh, I spent a night. I can't remember if he wanted to be fake at the beginning, or if he was just like genuine, just like, oh my gosh, guys, this is happening, and he was faking it up and stuff. But then he unleashes an evil within a house, and you follow him as he tries to survive all the evils and stuff, and a lot of like truly funny moments and stuff. A major thing that stuck out to me is, like I mentioned at the beginning, they get the technology sort of right. Like at some points it's sort of weird, because he's talking to his audience, and then his audience like send a video of them. They record it while they were watching the stream, which okay, that makes I guess that's a little bit of sense. But they explain away like a lot of the stuff, like why the cameras constantly change and stuff. You know, he says like, oh, these cameras I put around the house, motion activated. It's going to automatically switch to it when they're activated and stuff. Oh, the reason why the camera on my phone, the camera on my head are switching, that's because I have this bracelet thing that whenever I flip my wrist, it changes. And that's something, especially nowadays, that I could see, you know, being a legitimate thing that people use. You know what I mean? Especially, like, even if he had, like, they said, like, he had, like, a clicker in his hand where he was just like, that would also make sense. But I like the wristband thing, because I feel like that's a natural thing that people start push. And this is an influencer movie that I believe gets the sort of tone of these douchebag influencer types correct. I'm not talking about like the makeup influencers who are just like, okay, I'm going to do my makeup, talk about horror and stuff, or the food reviewers and stuff. This is just a person who, what's the best way to explain? Sort of like if you quantified every YouTuber who was part of the prank invasion / racist part of YouTube back in like 2015, 2013. mashed up what they are nowadays and then made that into a person. But then make him also a compelling character to watch in this movie. Like, let's say you fuse, like, Ice Poseidon, Logan Paul, and... what's that one guy who faked Sam and Colby's death or something like that? Sam Pepper? Just, like, fuse them all together and chuck them in there. And I legitimately had just... this is one of the first movies in a while that I had to stop the movie because I was laughing so hard. It is just overall an extremely well-built, well-made film. I don't know the budget off of this one, but it was extremely well-made, especially with the concept. It's also a shorter film, which I enjoy shorter films if they're, like, you know, if you need to extend your movie an additional 30 minutes and you're not doing anything with that 30 minutes, don't extend it 30 minutes. But it comes in at a cool 89 minutes, and I'm just fine with that. Also, there's, like, 2 stars in the movie, but I never get, like... what's the best way to say this? Bored out of my fucking mind with just these 2. They have a great dynamic and all that stuff. And looking at the main guy in it, yeah, he's also the director of the movie, which would make sense if he's the one having all the cameras and stuff. But overall, I will say this right now, it is a fucking fantastic movie. And it is just genuinely awesome. It's not exactly a scary movie. It has jump scares, but you know, that's going to happen with found footage. That's just the thing. But truly, I just enjoyed this movie, and I recommend you go see it yourself. So that comes us to a conclusion of this one. What do I think overall of Shudder? Well, for the price you're getting, it's about $8 or $7, depending on it. You have a long list of original movies and some of the good old classics and all that stuff. You have television, which they have a live TV, which... even if it's not, like, good television, live TV on something that costs $8 and there's 0 ads, that's sort of good. Plus, they have a lot of the movies. They have a bunch of documentaries and all that stuff. I really didn't get around. There was a few documentaries and movies I want to watch. Perfect Blue was one that I wanted to get around to watching, but my subscription ran out. Maybe I'll renew my subscription. But they also, like, just have new shit that's coming out, old favorites, and all that stuff. Like, literally, I'm scrolling through the website while I'm on a call. Not a call. While I'm recording this. And they recently added in, like, all the Saw collection. They added in the Babadook and a bunch of the old Raimi movies. And a bunch of the classics, like, oh, you know, like the Film Bro, sort of just like, oh, you need to watch these. They are integral to a horror movie person. I don't know what I was going with that, but, you know, yeah. But, yeah, in total, do I recommend you give it a try? I don't see why not. For only $8, it's one of the cheaper things that YouTubers are excelling out. Like, I looked at some of those things where it's just like the monthly subscription boxes and all that stuff, or the medicine stuff. Yeah, that is very expensive. I don't know if I'm going to review those. But yeah, for $8 a month, or like 3 cans of Monster, 4 cans of Monster, depending on which gas station you buy from, why not? Thank you all for watching. I'm going to try to make more content like this. If you can tell, I didn't really edit this one too much. I might cut out like major gaps in my speaking stuff. That's because with these and videos where I'm going to talk about more stuff, I just want to kind of let my opinions flow. Plus, they make longer videos, so yay! Anyway, y'all have a good night, good night, good night, good night. Hope you see you on the next one. Make sure not to die. Bye-bye.